Now we're live.
Yeah, now we're live.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yep.
Thanks for having me on your podcast, guys.
Yeah. thanks for having us on your podcast.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. And wrap. Tony, I know that you have a fascination with dinosaurs. What is that all about?
I don't know about dinosaurs.
Really?
Who told you that?
You were like talking about how dinosaurs make sounds and stuff, and you were like getting all into like the nasal cavities, and so you're like, yeah, scientists, they know about that stuff.
I can't remember what question that was. I think the guys just came up with random questions to ask us.
Okay.
And somebody, Rob Job, one of our old contractors, just sent a message on Instagram. And so I was like, ask me anything. And, so some people are asking real estate questions. Some people are asking about God. And then he's like, what sound do dinosaurs make? I was like, well, I have watched a YouTube video on this before.
You knew like everything about it already, though. You knew like the nasal cavities and the lungs. Like he was getting into the depth on some like detail. And I'm like, that's Tony.
Tony. And any detail that Tony does not ever know, he'll make up the in-between too. So that's the nice thing is like, it's going to sound really freaking scientific.
80% accurate.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you 70. I'll give 70% accuracy based on what somebody else says, but then like the fill-in sounds so legit that you just expect it to be true. You're like, okay, like that sounded really thought out.
He's like, well, did you know T-Rexes had this nasal cavity that when you push air through it makes a certain sound. And I was like, dude, this guy knows everything about dinosaurs apparently.
Yeah, I'm like, that makes sense.
But I was going to tell you because recently there was this video I was watching about dinosaurs, like recently, and there's actually a YouTube channel. I don't know what it's called. I was trying to find it on the way over here, but it's like what dinosaurs actually sounded like scientifically. And I was going to show you the YouTube video on it, but I was like, but now you're like, no, I don't know anything about dinosaurs.
Well, I thought you were going to tell us that you found one, because every Instagram I've ever seen of you on one of your ranchettes in Texas.
I might have found one.
You're always digging stuff up. I think that as much real estate as you do, I was like just poking fun at you when we were in New York. I was like, dude, you spend more time like fucking around with heavy equipment, just having fun. He doesn't do any actual work. He's just playing around. He's just moving stuff and destroying stuff and blending stuff up.
It's like, this is what real estate's about.
He's like, all right, I put this tree in my chipper.
Buy the dirt.
No, funny thing is, actually, I might have actually found a dinosaur bone on the ranch. So I was walking down the street trying to get like a survey of like where we're going to make this property line at. When I say survey, I was looking at where the line should go. And I was walking on this creek side, and it's like a bunch of rocks, and it's kind of, all the water flows through this area. And I looked down at this rock, and there is like a bone, like fossilized into this rock. And it's like this long, and it looks like a vertebrae. So I don't know what it is to this day. It's sitting on my porch, and I use it as like a conversation piece. But I mean, it could be a little baby T-Rex.
Wow.
From all I know. But I did some research, and it's probably just a fish.
I did some really, but the dinosaur sounds a lot cooler.
It sounds way cooler for dinosaur bones.
That's awesome.
But it has to be prehistoric. I mean, like, it's in a rock, and those rocks aren't something that formed last week, So
that reminds me of, that you make me think about like the big flood then too, because like, there's always interesting theories about like, whether you're an evolutionist or whether you're like a creationist. And so like the flood and then talking about how long ago it was and all that stuff. But the whole world was flooded and, it kind of creates different things like that.
So crazy thing is at the top of, in North Dakota, like middle of the continent, right? We have these buttes in North Dakota at the very, very top, which is like the tallest point in North Dakota probably. We found shark teeth in the bones, or like in the rocks on top of these buttes. So I believe the world's been flooded. I've been many times over. Actually, the area in Texas where I'm doing the property right now, it's like one of the only places in the nation that hasn't been covered in water more than twice. Like they call it Old Texas. It's like one region in where the water came in from the east and the water's come in from the west, but it's never reached this point for some reason. So like we have a lot of rocks, and they're like, that's because, when you bring them ocean, it covers it with sediment and, builds up ground, builds up dirt again. And this is just very, very rocky area. So it's always been washed away, never put back over.
What city are you in?
I'm in Spring Branch.
Okay, is Brian there too, or how far away is Brian from you?
Yeah, Brian's like 45 minutes from me.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Brian's a good dude.
Yeah.
I like that guy a lot.
Yeah, me too.
You guys doing some business, I heard. I was actually talking to him on the way over here.
We did?
Yeah, you guys were working the lead together or something.
Oh, yeah.
He said it just got locked up. They called him today.
Yeah.
And it just got locked up, and he was like, dang it.
Yeah, that was one down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
You guys are doing some pretty big business, though. Like, you guys are on it.
Yeah. I mean, the funniest part is, so that one's like some stuff that I'm doing on the side with Taras, but yeah, we're definitely doing a decent amount of deals in general. But yeah, just
how many deals are you doing like every week? Like, what's the average?
So probably,
don't tell me you don't have KPIs, bro.
yeah, we do. It's more monthly. We measure more monthly because weekly, you like last week we got 9.
Yep.
The week before that, it's like we probably did like 3. And so like on average monthly, we're doing somewhere around 20 to 25. But yeah, weekly it's just like bam, here's 10. Yep. And then the next week it's like, oh dang, we only got 2. Then the next week it's like, all right, we got 12. And so just like it's kind of just random on how it flows in. But yeah.
Yeah. So are you doing mostly in-house because you have a lot of employees here? Or are you doing VAs as well?
We have one VA, and she is not for like necessarily for acquisitions, outreach, or anything like that. She's just for like the back end stuff for calling utility companies, paying bills, organizing stuff, more stuff like that. So
pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
So why is that, though? Why do you focus on local here versus VAs? Because VAs can be cheaper. Brian, for example, uses mostly all VAs. He just hired his first local guy. Great dude, by the way. But so the flip-flop of that is you guys are mostly local and then going with one VA. What's the difference? Why do you structure it that way?
I like the culture. I like the people, and I like to also do business with my friends and have fun. It's just kind of fun, It doesn't really feel like we work whenever you're playing ping pong, throwing frisbee, closing deals, making a lot of money, and it just feels like, I don't know. I like to have fun. And then also what we found whenever we were bringing on VAs, the difficulty was the
accents.
Tonality. Tonality, not even just accents, because obviously that is a big deal too, but the tonality, they don't understand the difference, that words mean different things as you change your tonality. And so that was difficult for a sales perspective, because obviously tonality is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
So that was difficult. And then we didn't have as much control, we didn't have as much training, we didn't have the time. So I think we are going to start utilizing VAs more for cold texting, stuff like that, and then utilize our closers. But at the end of the day, dude, there's just something to being in the office, being around a bunch of guys, wanting to grow, wanting to be better, and we're all pushing each other. There's just, it makes you feel more unstoppable and makes you we just want to be better overall. And so I think that is why I enjoy it.
Yeah. So reason I ask is you're good. So reason I ask is because I'm very solopreneur right now. I'm just talking to Gary about this. And when I was asking him, I was like, you have an employee, you have entrepreneur, you have businessman.
Yeah.
And you guys almost seem like you're more of a businessman than entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is creating this. Now you guys are duplicating more. So I'm trying to figure out myself, if I want to grow my company, I obviously need to start hiring and need to start thinking more like a businessman versus just somebody that's creating new things right now, right? So that's why I asked. But what are the pitfalls of hiring locally versus hiring VAs? What do you see as a pitfall?
I would say there's a lot of different pitfalls or pluses and minuses in general, because honestly, like as part of an entrepreneur, the nice thing is your freedom. I mean, you're traveling right now, you're in Indiana.
Yep.
Whereas like if you got a business, it feels like you have more of an obligation to the people as well. So that's what I mean by like they make us better in a lot of sense, but also on the other side, you sacrifice a little freedom of like, I can't just go leave. Like I'm financially like I got some money, I'll be okay. But I can't just leave them and like, all right, guys, good luck. Yep. It's more of like, I want to show up for them and I want to give them that, which in some sense kind of takes away a little freedom. And so it's like a double-edged sword for the business person. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think I was with a coach not too long ago who was talking about intellectual property and those sorts of things. And he broke it down as like you can be a practitioner, which is somebody who's like excellent at sales and it's just their thing and they just stay in their niche and they're just like, this is just me. And they're just highly skilled at their one thing. Then there's a business owner who's good at running a business and perfecting the business and getting the model to work really well. And then there's an entrepreneur who really likes to start things and then leave them.
Yep.
And then start something else and then leave that. And then start something else and then leave that. And just have those things continue to generate income for them as they go start new things. But they're not necessarily like Dakota's kind of talking more about like being loyal to your people and having a sense of team and community and belonging and connection and like really feeling connected to your culture. And that's what's cool about having people local versus virtual assistants, where like virtual assistants come from a different culture. So it's almost like you're hiring a robot in a sense, because you're just like, hey, I'm not going to understand you or like really get to know you as well as, I mean, I don't know though, because there have been examples of like Kristen Stampini and Mark Stampini. They went out to the Philippines, built a school out there. They like go out there and connect with their team and they try to create a sense of team and belonging. I also know they spend like 10, 20 hours just in meetings trying to get their teams to function like a regular team out here.
I know that Brian does that really well, is like connection to his VAs. Like I've listened to you guys on your own when we were in New York. I was listening to you guys on your calls. I've listened to Brian on his calls. Two different sets of, like you said, different types of employees. And y'all operate a lot the same way, right? So he is very connected in like, what are you happy for today? And he asks him like stuff like on a deeper level. He gets to know him, and his VAs love him, you know, because they're like, you know, every time I would go work for somebody, it's always like, call this person, say this script, you know, if you don't work out, you're fired, right? Where he's like, I want to get to know you on a deeper level. You know, I want to get to know, you know, about you. What are you happy for? What are you thankful for? How can I help improve your life? And I'm like, damn, that takes commitment. Like, I'm not that guy, and I know that, right? But like, I'm like, that's cool. You know, and you guys are kind of the same way on the local level.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Like, what kind of guy are you? What do you feel like you're more like then?
I'm more introverted. So like, I'm kind of like Ryan Pineda and I are kind of the same way when we go to like how we are with people. Like, we know we need to get out and talk, but at the same time, we don't get energy from it. It actually takes energy away from us, right? So I'm like on the PI, I'm very, I'm a venturer.
Okay.
Like, I like to innovate, I like to create, but I don't need people to bring me energy. Like, I am just like, I like people, don't get me wrong. There's a big difference between not liking people and not needing people, but I don't get any more energy from it, you know? So that's how I am. And I'm just right now just like thinking about this just because I talked to Gary today and like we're going through it, and he's like, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, honestly, I just want to get a coaching lesson right now. And he's like, well, that's the cheap way to do it.
Yep.
So, you know, so I said, well, it wasn't really that cheap once you figure all the time and flights and travel and everything, you know. And he's like, I know. But great guy. God, Gary's, and you guys have worked with him.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're still working with them. We're planning on staying with them. Actually, I just found out that they're coming next week. I didn't even notice that, but yeah, Brandon McCurdy's coming next week, and like we're going over like quarterly goals and stuff like that. So
awesome.
Yeah, they've been, I mean, honestly, they've been a game changer. Like Ryan Pineda helped us get to this level, but it felt like like really chaotic, and he kind of just gives you like a North Star, I would say, like, okay, hey guys, you guys should go this direction. And it's based on like his experience and what he thinks, but also that changes a lot from time to time. But he's like, you guys should go here, and we're like, all right, that makes sense. So we did it. We started doing the social media. We started doing, instead of like rentals, we started doing more flipping. And then we realized that it's really chaotic. And we're like, all right, dude, we need somebody to like actually help us become owners as well and figure out some systems, processes, accountability. Like, we're decent at accountability when we know what to hold people accountable to, but we don't even know what to hold you accountable to.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, he's been a game changer for us in our business for sure.
Yeah, Pineda's kind of funny in that way where he's just like, you guys need to be doing social media. We're like, okay, how do I do it? You just do it, man.
Just put out content.
Start doing it. Just start doing it, and you'll get better at it.
Ryan's more like the motivational speaker. Nope. He's like, go, do. You know?
And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then like we do it, and everything's really messy. And I'm like,
this sucks.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't. Yeah, I'm like, I can't actually sleep right now because there's so much disorganization that bothers the crap out of me, and like I just can't sleep. And so now I'm like, but then I want to do more because Ryan's like got this new idea. And I'm like, that makes sense. And then I'm like, let me add. I'm like, no, I cannot add on anything more, and we need to organize because again, like now it feels as though it's interesting how business is a sense of freedom and also a sense of like kind of like I felt a little trapped. It's a sense of like again responsibility until you get it figured out for them. And so it's like, all right, we made this really big mess. Now we got to help you guys clean it up, create a system, and then hopefully we're in the owner's box, and then we can kind of decide if we can jump out without affecting them or not. That's really the goal.
Yeah, I think Ryan's really good at like new entrepreneurs that don't have it all figured out, and they're scared to take the next step, and they're scared of what's to come. And like, you guys are probably a different class of like entrepreneur. You guys are like, we're ready to go. Just tell us where. Like the North Star, right?
Yeah.
You go.
Yep.
But a lot of people, like, I think like the majority of people actually just need to be told to go.
Yeah.
And where to go. I mean, to a sense, like, well, if you don't like that, do this. And that's what Ryan's really great at, is getting people to take initiative in their own life and get going someplace.
100%.
Yeah, that's where we're all met too, because you were part of Wealthy Investor. You were one of the first people to invest heavily in Tykes to the point where you got a boardroom beast, which meant that you had 10 Tykes. So you were in a couple of his programs. Is that how you started, or did you just buy your way in?
I never was in his programs. I was only in Tykes. So I didn't even know about Ryan, actually. So when Tykes came out, or before Tykes came out, they were kind of pre-launching, whitelisting, they call it. I was looking for kind of answers some questions in real estate. And I listened to Ryan speak at Bridger Pennington's event about fundraising. And I was like, I turned to my buddy, I'm like, hey, that guy's be my friend. And he's like, dude, if anybody can do it, it's gonna be you. Like, my buddy's telling me this, right? And I was like, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna be that guy's friend. Like, because I want more people like that like-minded around me, because I don't have that right now. So when he came out with Tykes, I jumped in the community. When they were whitelisting, I was trying to give as much value as possible. They came out with, and they released, I bought one. And like, at the time, I didn't have any money, right? All I knew was I want to be around people like him. And I know he's got a lot of people like that around him. So if I can just get in friendship with him, then I can meet more people like him, because he's surrounding himself with those type of people.
Wow.
So, and then he came out with the whole boardroom thing, and he's like, oh, by the way, if you buy 20, then, and they're already all sold out, if you go out in the secondary market and buy 20, then you get to hang out with me. I'm like, this guy, like, I barely have enough money to spend on one. So I went out and creative financed my way to getting to the boardroom.
Oh, so about that time I went to sell mine. So you probably bought one of mine.
Probably.
I got mine for $500. You bought them for $3,800 or something.
Yeah, I think I was buying them. I initially bought 5, and it was, I didn't even pay for the whole thing. I was like trying to get in with other people and like trying to get as many as I could. So we got 5, and then he's like, yeah, you need 20, and so I had to go buy 16 or 15 more. So I went out and borrowed 15 ETH from somebody that I had bought a bunch of Bitcoin and stuff.
Which was what, is that like 3,000 per ETH?
I think at the time it was like 2,500.
Okay, so you borrowed 38 grand or something?
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Wow.
But the guy that I borrowed it from, I knew he was sitting on stockpiles of ETH because he was the type of guy that bought and never sold. Like, he'll probably never sell his ETH. Like, it's either going to be
wait
boom or
for the
bust.
government to collapse and then he'll have ETH. He'll still have some Bitcoin.
So when I told him, I was like,
ETH.
yeah, so I'm going to need like 15, probably 16 ETH to cover the fees and stuff. And he was like, okay, what are you going to spend it on? And I told him about it. And he's like, I don't know nothing about that. He's like, but I trust you. And yeah, go for it. Here's how much you need again. I was like, 16. He's like, only 16? I'm like, only 16? Come on, bro. I understand you bought it for $25, ETH, but yeah, I need it. And he's like, you just sent it.
Wow.
No contract, no nothing.
Did you pay him back then already?
Yep.
How long did it take you to pay him back? And what were your terms? Like, what was your setup with him then?
So all he said is that I want my ETH back. He goes, I don't want cash back. And that was like even more scary because ETH can go crazy like in a month, right?
Yeah.
So now I got to buy this ETH back at some point.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if I would even do that.
Yeah.
It's a risk.
I would probably do the cash instead of the ETH because you don't know what ETH is going to be when you go to...
Well, that wasn't his terms, though. His terms were, I just want my ETH back.
Yeah.
I don't want cash back. Just give me ETH.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, shit, So I'm looking at this market in 2024. Like they say right around now is when it's supposed to explode. It hasn't yet. But they're thinking right around this time period is when it's supposed to explode. So I'm thinking, like, I got to get this money back to them. And it's going up and down and up and down. It's getting up to 4,000 one day. I'm just like, man, that's like so much money. But I got what I wanted out of it. So I was committed to pay him back. But yeah, I paid him back when I closed on the ranch of last year, April of last year.
That's freaking nuts.
So
that's what's crazy too, is this is something that Ryan Pineda says a lot, is like betting on yourself. So talk to us about like where you're at, dude. I'm curious, like where were you at? You said you were poor, broke. What were you doing then? How much money did you have? Why were you at that event in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the strategy of being like, you know what, I'm going to buy an NFT during one of the most volatile points in history, where NFTs were at the very top of the market right before they plummeted.
Yeah. So
Evan was like, sign me up.
Yep, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to bet on myself and bet on that.
Well, like I never looked at buying that as an investment. And I think a lot of people did, right? I was like, I just want the networking.
Yeah.
I want to get in front of Ryan so I can get in front of other people. And, and that was my goal. It was never, I'm going to make money on this, right?
That was my goal.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Hey, I made some money on mine.
Yeah.
To get in front of Ryan or what?
No, to make money on the NFT. My goal was to make money on the NFT. I was already in front of Ryan with the whole like.
It was like, how do I use this Tycoin stuff?
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to sell it. Like, I wanted to make money, but then I held it because I thought it'd go up, and I was definitely wrong.
I wonder if does Pineda know who kept them and who sold them or anything? Like, would he be able to tell?
He doesn't care now.
Yeah, we got a snapshot of it all.
He couldn't find mine.
Okay.
I was like trying to switch it into a freaking ticket.
Well,
They're like, bro, we can't find it. What email did you use? I'm like, dude.
Yeah, problem with NFTs is we got a snapshot of what accounts held what, but we can't technically tell you
The name.
of the account, right? Because it's all in wallets, and that's the crypto part of it, right?
Yep.
So we know which accounts had them. We got a snapshot of that, but we don't know anything past
Who
that.
owns the account?
Yep, unless we can connect the dots ourselves.
Gotcha.
Right,
Okay.
so that might be why he couldn't find it.
Yep. All right, so tell us about where you were at the time, and then why were you at that event? Like, what were you doing? What were you making? Like, net worth? Why were you at that event?
So about a year before that, I quit my job, 6-figure golden handcuffs job in the utility space, and I went out and started a business. And the business I ended up starting, didn't know at the time when I quit, but the business I ended up starting was wholesaling, basically. And I came across, like it was so stupid. I was texting like 70,000 numbers with no targeting. We were just texting people.
You were just texting random people?
Yeah, random people with the 210 number.
Wow.
And I'll replace this in a second. But one of the deals I came across was the ranch. And I was like, hey, I would like to buy your ranch, basically, with a text message. And he's like, yeah, 5.2. And I was like, 5.2 what? Are we talking acres? Are we talking million? What are we talking?
Ethereum.
Yeah. He should have asked for that. Yeah. I might have been able to do it.
5.2 tykes.
Yeah. That would have been good. No, but he was like, yeah, $1 million, stupid. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know his name. I didn't know nothing. All I had was a phone number. And actually, I didn't even know he had a ranch. We were just looking for property. But he's like, yeah, it's 300 acres. And I'm like, okay, where at? And I'm thinking, this is on the south side someplace. Ends up trying to be on the north side, which is a really high market. And I'm like, that's actually not a bad price. It's not great, but it's not a bad price. So I was like, I'm coming out. I was like, give me your address. And he's like, how do you not know this? Because he's talking to these people all the time. They know exactly where he lives. They know his name. They know his dog's name. Like, I don't know anything about him. So he's getting kind of flushed with me. I'm like, just give me your address and I'll be out there in a half an hour. So he gives it to me. End up showing up a half an hour later, walk in the door, and he's like, oh shit, like you're a real person. So anyways, I had that deal about the same time Tykes was coming around, and I was trying to figure out, how do I either wholesale this or close on it myself? Or anyways, because I knew it was a deal, like I can probably make, at least, $100,000, if not more. And so I was just looking for answers at that point. And it was a year after I quit my job, so my nest egg was running out. I was spending about $10,000 a month trying to keep, processes going and the business going and closing deals, but like you'd close a $10,000 deal, pay for that month, right? And I didn't have multiple deals coming in, so I really had no money left. I was cash broke at that time, so I had to I did that for like 10 months straight where I was cash broke and just working month to month to month and just had a way out, just building up debt. I could have went back and worked in the oil field, and got out of it pretty fast. But I was like, if I quit, I'll never come back to this, right? So that's where I was financially. But that's also the reason I wanted to connect with Ryan, because I was like, I just need to get around people like this. If I can get around people like this, like they'll have at least an answer or a solution or a better way of doing this. Or maybe they won't, but I think they will, so that was my goal. And throughout that whole time period, even to this day, I just try to give to Ryan because I've gotten so much back from him, right? Even through Tykes, people are like, oh man, we didn't make any money. And I was like, man, where were you? I was like, I got a $700,000 commitment to close on the ranch.
Wow. Right?
Because I was willing to offer. I didn't have anything to lose. I was like, yeah, I'll give you half my profits.
Right.
And somebody's like, if I can make $1.5 million for 700,000, like, let's do it. I ended up not having to take it, but like that's the only thing that got me over the hump of being like, okay, well, we can't sign that contract. Now we can, because we got a way to close on this. Mm-hmm. So
tell us.
So you were like, all right, my first deal, I'm going to get 300 acres for $5 million, first big deal.
Yep.
And I got to the point where I can find my buyers because I bought a bunch of Tykes.
So how did that all get transpired? No, so
everything that you're saying is like a snowball and hell chance of working out.
Yeah,
it was. For our viewers, like, don't try this as your first deal.
Yeah.
Maybe don't.
No, whatever works. Get some Tykes, get some E's. Go talk to Ryan.
Throw money away, people. Throw money away.
Just talk to Ryan. Like, risk it.
Yeah.
Go fly to somebody's house.
Yeah. I didn't think about it in that way. I didn't think about it. No, I like there was way more that happened during that whole time. But one of the things is I started learning from more people like Ryan. So I was starting to learn from, even before this, I was learning from Jerry Norton and Pace Morby and people like that. Ryan was just another cog in the wheel. So I was like, okay. At some point, I realized that none of these developers are going to buy it. There's problems with this property that I didn't see going in that I would have never seen, knowing what I know now. And so I was like, well, if I still want to make this deal happen, I got to figure out a way to take it down. So we actually got a creative deal on it. Got the seller to finance 90% of it, and he just wanted 10% down on a 4-year balloon, no guaranteed payments for 4 years.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so I got to come up with 10%. We actually renegotiated, bought 222 acres instead of the full 300. He wanted to keep some. So we got all the way down 3.7 million. And then I just had to come up with 370,000. Plus I needed closing money, all this, right? Mm-hmm. So when I started going in, actually I met Ryan the first time in the boardroom, and I was like, hey man, I got this deal. Like I just pitched my shot, right? And he was like, cool. And he kind of walked away, and I was like, damn, I spent $62,000 on that, you know? And then I pitched it again the next time I was there, and he's like, hey, man, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm trying to close this deal. And he's like, I get that, Evan. He's like, why are you talking to me? And I was like, aren't you the guy? Like, I thought you were the guy. And he's like, dude, there's so much money in this room. Go talk to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you bought this for networking. Go network. And I was like, you're right. And like, at first I was mad. I was like, what a stupid advice. Like, you know, like, and then I was like, oh, you're right. So I went over and talked to some people, and I pitched the idea of it to him. And one guy was like, dude, I'll give you the whole $700,000. And I was like, cool. So then I went back, had it on a soft commitment. I was like, close the ranch, ended up putting it in the contract on the seller finance that I can list this property, kind of like a novation. I can list this property as soon as we have it in writing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. I signed the contract one day, listed the next day. The following day, somebody came in and bought 60 acres for $1.4 million.
Wow.
And we closed in 60 days, right? They wanted to close in 5. Mm-hmm. They knew they were getting a hell of a steal. Like, I was just trying to find a way so I didn't have to bring in that private investor and lose half my deal. So they got a hell of a steal in the 60 acres, and went to closing table, ended up did some renegotiating with John, the seller, and ended up not bringing any money to the closing table, and they actually paid me through a partial double close $300,000. And that's how I paid back all my debt with that, paid back Tykes, you know, got straight. And
have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $997. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
So you got $300,000 at closing is what you're saying?
Yep.
Because you sold off. So how many acres do you have left then?
So after that, I had about 182 acres.
And how much do you still owe the guy?
162 acres.
How much do you still owe the guy?
Almost right now, I think it's like, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think it's like $500,000 or $600,000.
Oh, wow. And what are you planning on doing with that? Like, are you planning on selling off a couple more, or what are you going to do then?
Yeah, so I was planning originally selling it all off.
Yep.
Like all 222 acres. There was a house on it. I didn't even know I was buying the house at one point. And now I'm living in that house. And
there's a house.
Yeah. I was like, there's a house that comes with this. Shoot. He's like, it needs some work. So
There's a cherry on top.
Yeah. So I'm actually living there now. But my plan was, I was like, if we can sell this, I won't say the number because we're still working through that, but if we can sell it for this price, then I can make about $1 million on this deal. Mm-hmm. But we've been selling it for like $10,000 more than that, you know, an acre.
Wow.
So now I get to keep not only a house and 27 acres of land, plus I get to make $1.5 million on this.
Wow.
So it just, I mean, everything's worked right. Like it's, and like at the end of the day, it's all God, right? Like God's been like, I've been trying to tell you, you need to do something, but like, I got you, you know, so.
How did you know that was that good of a deal?
Just based on comps. I was really good at comping properties. I was terrible at acquisitions. Mm-hmm. So like people would come to me and they're like, hey, what's this property worth?
Okay.
And I'd be like, let me do some research real quick. Houses, commercial, whatever, land. And like I could pretty much tell you what that property was
worth. Give us the detail then. Like, okay, you're looking at it. Okay, this is buildable land, because like land is always interesting for us, and it sounds like you're pretty decent with land. Mm-hmm. And so like land is like, okay, you got agricultural, you got this, you got that, you got buildable, you got soil testing, you got all of this other stuff. How do you actually evaluate or properly comp land?
So there's a couple different factors. Just like a house, land has attributes. Everybody's like, it's just dirt. It's not just dirt. Mm-hmm. So one of the attributes is obviously location. Your first one, where's it at? Like I like to be, like where I'm looking for my next deal is about an hour outside of a major city or within the Texas Triangle. The Texas Triangle is Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and that makes a triangle. Okay. I'm happy to be anywhere in the middle of that or within 1 hour of a big city.
Okay.
If you get both, even better. So first, look at location. Is this where I want to be? Second, how much road frontage does it have? So roads are super expensive. So a lot of land will have their minimum 60 feet. It's called the flag lot. It'll go back into the property and then open up, and that's their property. They drive back to the road, and they got 15, 20 acres in the back. Problem is, when you have that, you cannot subdivide because they already have the minimum, right? And the county's requiring you to have at least a minimum. So in order to subdivide that property, you got to build a road back there. About every mile of road is about $3 million.
Oh, wow. And who and the developer has to pay for that?
Yep. So the county, at least in Texas, I'm not sure how it works in other states. Texas only.
Sure.
But the county will require you to build that road if you want to subdivide off of it. Either have a contract to where people are paying to maintain that road as like a POA, HOA, or you build that road to their specs and they'll take over.
Wow.
But if you build that road to their specs, it costs about $3 million. You know, they want proper paction, they want testing, they want all this stuff, engineering. By the time you're done, you're looking at big money. So I first look at Nick's road frontage. How much road frontage does it have? I want about 20 feet per acre. So, you know, you have or let's say just 100 acres. You know, I want 2,000 feet of road frontage as a minimum. So now I'm able to subdivide. I can make flag lots. I can sell flag lots, or I can sell squares or rectangles, however it works. But I need that access. Next thing is, does it have utilities available? I mean, we don't have to have utilities on property, but is there fiber by the street? Is there power? You know, and kind of the list goes when you're looking at land like I am, like rural land. People nowadays, they used to want power and then water and then all their other utilities. Now they want power, then fiber. So we just went through COVID, right? People are like, if I need to go home or I want to work from home, I want fiber optic. I can drill a well, right? But I can't just connect to, you know, the internet just anywhere, right? So that's the next big thing. Does it have power? Does it have fiber? How far down the list do you want me to go?
Well, the question, I guess, then is like, if you're doing that, you're looking at all those things, and you don't have a comp that matches it, how do you evaluate it at that point? Like, okay, hey, it doesn't have fiber optic, and so that takes off $2,000 per acre. Like, how do you evaluate what that would look like, or how would you actually know, or are you just guesstimating?
A little bit of guesstimating, but at the same time, you can see trends in areas. So if you go to the MLS and you're like, well, what's available right now? Okay, well, these are all, you know, you're competing against everybody else basically when you're selling land. So these 10 acres are selling for $250. Okay, so if it's sitting on market for the last 370 days and selling at $250, well, price of land is not over $250 or $25,000 an acre.
Yeah.
So maybe it's less than that. What has sold? Oh, well, the sold stuff's going for $17,000 an acre.
Okay.
So you kind of get a gauge, like, even though that the comps are based on, you know, the you know, what things are selling at and the amenities, people don't have as much knowledge on land, right? So you almost have to fit your property into that. And why I am so like, it obviously it has better amenities. I can tell the buyer, like, hey, you don't want to buy that other land because of this, this, and this, and this. Like, our property's better than that. We're still fitting into the comp range, right? But you should be able to buy mine for more, actually, right? So that's one of the things we're doing right now as well.
Do you do, like, soil testing, or do you make it contingent on soil or anything like that?
Typically not soil. We sell a lot of ranches, so a lot of ranches are pasture land. We're not farmland, so soils don't matter too much. A lot of people aren't buying for soils. A lot of people that we're selling to are business owners, or they're getting large inheritance money.
Okay.
We're not really selling to a lot of Californians or anything like that. It's mostly local people that want to move out into the country.
What's important for a builder then, for land? What's important for them? Like, so if it's not soil testing, I always thought the soil testing was important for the building. Is that not true?
They do need to do some tests. Like, we have a lot of caves on our property right now.
Okay.
And people are like, well, what about that? And I'm like, well, it's sitting on rock. Like, the rocks will move over the next million years, but is your house still going to be standing over the next million years? I don't think so. So they do have to do some drilling and testing, make sure that they have stable soil underneath the property, but it's pretty minimal.
Okay.
Like, as long as you're not sitting next to a river or a massive bank, like, the home builders don't take care of most of that. I don't have to worry too much about that, or the buyers.
Do you need to build anything when you're creating a ranchette? If you're subdividing 100 acres into 25 acres, what all do you need to build? Like, do you need to build horse stables, fences, that sort of thing? Do you have to have a place for cowboys to go hang out afterwards? Like, is it like, hey, this is my retirement home?
Yeah.
Or is it like, no, we just stop by the ranch, take care of the horses, and then we go back home?
Most of our buyers are looking to build a house. So one thing that they need is a water well. They need power. Obviously, if they want to keep, in Texas, we have a thing called a 1D1 agricultural exemption for tax purposes. It's like paying the difference between paying $5,000 to $6,000 in property taxes versus paying $100. But in order to qualify for that, you need fences, you need, access for water and all these different things. So I've been honestly just selling land right now as land, raw land. About 6 months into it, I realized that, hey, the people want these things. It's an objection point. So I actually started the post-sale Texas Ranchettes. We'll go and develop those things for them. And now we've actually even included those into the price in the season where it's been a little harder to sell land. One of the things I did just to kind of test it was I was like, what if we include 100 credit hours land clearing into this property? Wow. A 10-acre property takes about 10 hours to clear an acre. I said, what if I just include that all into the land price? And we instantly got to sell. That's $40,000 that people are going to have to pay out of pocket after sell. And I was like, that was interesting. How many other services can we do? So
and you get to get up on your big boy equipment and mess around and put it on Instagram.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I actually got a creative finance deal on buying the skid steer. So it was like a $250,000 brand new. Found one that was like $180 with 200 hours on, which isn't nothing for equipment. And I was like, I wonder if I can creative finance this. And I got that on a balloon as well.
Wow.
So, people think that you need money to start business. You do not need any money.
You need negotiation skills.
You need negotiation. You need
to go
people
after
to
some
believe in
wealthier
you.
clients.
Yeah. No, but it's like I always tell people, you don't need money.
No.
Like, there are so many ways. If you at least have a skill, people will loan you money.
Yeah, or confidence. That's the craziest part is there's not a whole lot of confidence. Like, honestly, if you would ask me for 14 ETH, I would have been like, no way, buddy.
Yep.
Like, hey, I trust you, but you haven't done anything.
Yep.
So it's like, I don't trust you with that kind of money. You know what I mean? But somebody will. And your confidence of like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. I know it sounds crazy, but I promise I will not stop. And that kind of confidence creates confidence. Funny, so actually I'll tell a funny story. So we were hiring this lady, or hopefully hiring her. It didn't end up working out. Hopefully Cody does not crop this and put this as a clip. She'll see it, she'll be pissed. But basically we were hiring her as a transaction coordinator. And then I was on the phone with her yesterday. And then she was like, we're trying to overcome an objection that she was having of like, okay, I don't want to come on because of X reasons. And so I was talking to her. I'm like, she was like acting uncertain and stuff. I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, your uncertainty is now giving me uncertainty. So if it just doesn't make sense, let's just not do it. But the same thing is your confidence will give the other people confidence like, hey, I kind of believe this person. So I think confidence in the certainty that I'm going to do whatever it takes and I will not stop and I'm a person of my word, it does something to people of like, all right, dude, hey, I trust him, because there's not very many people that will give you that kind of certainty.
Yep. And one thing I do is I get the most motivation from when people tell me you can't.
Yeah.
Like, I literally, my parents are those type of people. They always tell me, like, I don't know if this is going to work out, Evan. Like, they're very skeptical type people. So I call them on a weekly basis just to get that you can't.
Yeah.
Right? And people are like, well, that's weird. And I'm like, no, I need that.
Yeah.
Like, the other day, my mother picked up on it, and she's like, wow, I'm a motivation for you, ain't I? And I was like, actually, you are. Like, because I love when you tell me I can't do things. But my thing is, like, hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like completely what you're saying is, like, I do have confidence. And, like, I like, from an early age, I actually had this, I don't know if I've ever shared this before, like, publicly. But at a very young age, I was in California on like my first vacation. I was like 9 years old, and we went out to see my aunt, and she brought a friend with her. And you know when you get like the end of the table, like you sit down at a restaurant and you're on the very end away from everybody? Mm-hmm. And that's where I was. I was at the very end, like I was outside the group and she sat down across from me. And I'm like, who's this lady, you know? And when she sat down, like I remember to this day, she sits down and she was like kind of like talking over here to the family. And she sits down and she like makes eye contact with me. And she's just like amazed. And I was like, the hell? Like, this lady's crazy, you know, the way she was looking at me. And I had my hands up on the table at some point. She reached out and she just like touched my hands like I'm a 9-year-old kid. Like, right? It was super awkward. And she's like, you're going to do great things. And I was like, what? She's like, you're going to do great things. And I was like, what the hell was that all about? And like, I remember to this day, so from a very young age, like I've always had like, did she see something? Like, it's like looking back, it's like she saw like a vision of me or something, like wherever it is. And I don't know why she told me that or why, but the whole night she just staring at me like she's in God's presence or something. Like now I know that she was probably high because my, you know, that aunt does smoke a lot of weed. But like, I kind of refuse to believe it because it's always gave me confidence, like I'm going to do great things. Yeah. And it's really a choice, I think, at the end of the day, like to believe in yourself or not. Like I used to tell my parents, like, I'm going to be an astronaut. Like when I was young, I'm going to be an astronaut so I can grow 3 inches because you grow 3 inches in space. Then I'm going to be an NBA player. And they were like, wow, that's a plan right there. Yep. But I've always had that level of confidence.
But instead, the plan just turned and said, I'm going to buy a tie, get close, buy a 5.3 million. The plan switched just slightly. Just a little bit. Yeah.
Well, he had like the, if I do this, then this will happen mentality.
Yeah.
He was like,
and I got denied to astronauts.
If I buy 20 tykes, then I can talk to Ryan Pineda. He can tell me that it's great that I got a deal so that way I can go network with the people who got the money.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. Where did your guys start come from? What was your like first big deal where you're like, man, this is going to be what I do? And you guys probably had different deals or a deal together.
Yeah, we started together. I think the one that made the difference for me was coming back from, actually it was like Dakota just being like, hey man, you should quit changing jobs every 3 months and start working for the business full time. And so the first one for me where I was like, hey, I think this can work is when I actually went full time into the business. We didn't have very many properties then. We have consistently hired when we couldn't afford it. And I was just like, man, I don't know what's going to happen if I go full-time in the business and we end up going bankrupt. And Dakota's like, dude, we only have 3 houses. It's not that big a deal. Like, he's like, you know, you make $14 an hour at this job. Like, we can pay you $14 an hour. And like, if you don't end up getting us a deal, you can just go back to work. It's not that big a deal. So I was coming back from an 8-plex that we bought in Toledo, Ohio. And we saw one on Facebook Marketplace. And Dakota was messaging her. Do we have anybody else? It was me and you were both messaging her.
And just me and you working at the time.
I think you got. Did you get a response first?
I don't remember.
One of us got a response.
Set up the appointment.
Yeah, I tried calling her. Like sometimes on Facebook you can send people $1 and that gets them to look at your message or whatever. I friended her outside of the Facebook Marketplace app because she was getting blown up. You post anything on Facebook Marketplace for a good deal, you're getting blown up. But a lot of those people on Facebook Marketplace, a lot of those like newbies and people who are just getting started, well, some of them are actual people who want to flip and stuff, but they're asking stupid questions. They're like, does it have gas heat or is it, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, is it a is it a well or is it on city water? And they're asking stupid questions. And so I think either Dakota or I got to them. We were like, hey, we're headed your way.
I remember I was messaging her, and then I said, all right, I got an appointment for you for this lady. And then like you were like, all right, I'm driving from Toledo, like 2.5 hours. I'll be there. I'm like, all right, I'll make sure that she knows you're coming.
Yeah, what time you're going to get there. So I was just driving back and then met up with the lady. and FaceTime Dakota. And Dakota didn't realize the condition of the property because our internet was so bad. Like my FaceTime, I was trying to FaceTime. I was like, it's got a little bit of a crack right there in the foundation.
He's like, I can't see it.
This
It all looks good to
Yeah,
me.
like, the foundation's a little, like, it's a little wonky. It's not too bad. And then, like, yeah, anyway.
Then I walked through it and I was like, yeah, there's about an inch difference between this spot and this spot. It's not too bad though, but
Yeah, later when I walked it, I was like, bro, if I would have saw that, I probably would have been really scared and went a lot less. But anyway, he told me, he's like, I don't think it's too bad. And so she's asking this, and she says she won't go anything lower. And I'm like, all right, let me talk to her.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what we got it for. I think it was 35 grand. If I remember
she
right.
listed it for like 45 and we got it down to like 35. And then
Yeah. Got it for 35. I think we wholesaled it. I can't remember for like, I think we made 15K.
47 or
We
something.
made something like 12 to 15, but I was like, all right, I just paid for your salary for basically almost half the year. So, yeah, that was a cool one. For me, it wasn't necessarily a deal because honestly, like, I had a lot of confidence from car sales in general. And so, like, for me, it was just like a confidence that came from sales of like, dude, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm good at it now. And like, I'm going to be able to do this because to me, car sales and real estate was so similar to the talking to people, to the transaction, to the confidence, to like, hey, I'm going to help you figure this out and like just coming alongside of them. So for me, I had confidence from the beginning of like, we're going to do this.
Do you remember your first deal in car sales that switch hit? Like you flipped a switch and you were like, yeah, now I won't go back?
Yeah, well, so for me, it was in the first 3 months. First couple months went really freaking well. Then I went 2 weeks without selling a car. Just 2 straight weeks with no car sales. And then everybody's like, hey, maybe you're a 90-day wonder. Like, you know, are you sure this is it? And then I had to start questioning myself. Maybe I did get lucky. Maybe I don't have the skills. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. You know, and I went internal and I was just like getting in my head a lot. Because, man, when you don't sell a car for 2 weeks straight and you're making $0 for 2 weeks, like, I know that sounds like, for most people, like, dude, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're talking 2 weeks of 9 a.m. in the office till 8 p.m. at close, 6 days a week. And you are accomplishing nothing.
And you're on commission only.
Commission only.
Yep.
You're accomplishing nothing. You're working 11 to 12 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, 6 days a week, getting nothing done.
And your situation, too. You were supporting your fiance, your wife.
His wife, yeah, I was married at the time.
He was supporting his wife going to college. And so then he had like that weight. And then weren't you guys living on Cook Road then?
Yep.
So he's living in like 700 square feet where like the breaker would go off if you were using too much electricity at one time. So it's not like he's like sitting on a bunch of money like, oh, I've got time. I can wait it out.
Yeah, and that was after the winter time. So I was landscaping, making $12 an hour. Go through the whole winter time in training, which in training I got paid $400 a week gross. So I brought home like $200.
You're talking about training for car sales.
Correct.
Yep.
And they required me to do 60 days of training, no commission. So I went, dude, I was so broke. I had to sell my car in order to pay for rent. Then I get into actual sales. I do pretty well for the first couple months. I couldn't close a deal, but I was like, I was going to talk to people. I was running after people because, dude, I'm like, I need to talk to people because I was just like, I need to close some deals. And then, and then after that 2 weeks, man, I was just like, dude, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if I got it. I don't know if I had. That was the time that I started to question my ability. And then after that, I'm just like, screw it. I'm going all in. And I literally thought about quitting and just like giving up going back to landscaping because at that time it was probably like April and it was like time that I could go back to doing something like that. And I was like, you know what? I showed that I could do it before and I'm going all in. And I'm going to do this. From that point on, I ended up getting salesperson of the month after month after month after month after month. And then I ended up like getting salesperson of the year 4 years in a row after that. After I made the decision of like, all right, dude, no turning back. Like, I'm going all in. And the funniest part is I felt like I was going all in. It was just that moment of indecision and indecisiveness. And so what I always tell people when they are questioning, because there probably is here people questioning their confidence, and honestly, I still do it. Even yesterday, I was questioning everything. Whoops.
We lost camera. No, we lost camera too.
Oh, it probably died.
It's okay.
Oh, it doesn't have a...
I'll just come over there when I need to talk.
It still...
yeah.
It still has a
Power supply.
Did I hit it with my leg?
Maybe it overheated.
Yeah, I can switch it to 1. I can bounce between 1 and 3 and see if that helps. Or 3 and 4.
This camera feels really hot.
Oh, isn't there something between is it the HDMI that's hot or is it the power supply that's hot?
It's the whole entire camera. All right, let me finish this thought really quick because this is really important for people, I feel like, because like confidence is like we said, the most important thing, and I think that a lot of people struggle with it. So even yesterday, I started struggling with my confidence, and I've struggled with confidence sometimes, especially when some bad stuff happens, your day goes to crap, you just keep getting smashed, like 10 things in a row. And so whenever that happens, what I do is I remind myself of truth, like things that actually happened that did go well, that reminds you of who you are. And so that's helped me a lot of like, okay, I do value a lot of like my accomplishments, especially whenever I'm thinking about that. I'm working on finding my worthiness and like in Christ and like just in like me being me, which is something else I'm working on. So I believe there's a difference between worthiness and confidence, but confidence comes from prior things that you've done that you know you're going to do, or you know what you're willing to do or willing to put in. And so that's what I do, is just remind myself of the previous things that I've done that I know I did well at and that I know I can do again. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. Or I commit to what I have confidence in my ability to learn, work harder, like do more than anybody else. And that to me just like kind of gets me back in that spot of like, all right, maybe I'm not the best, maybe I'm not this, but I'm going to go and work even harder now. Yeah, and so that I think like kind of shifts the confidence thing.
Yeah. I'll get the other light while we're waiting too.
Yeah, so you turn it back on. I better turn on now. I heard it turn on.
Yeah, I just plugged it back into 2.
I heard something. Do we have the other camera? Oh.
There we go.
I kind of thought that was the other camera. He just swapped out the lens.
Oh, this is?
See if I can get this
Yeah,
working.
he just swapped out the lens. It's the same camera. It's a Sony A7 IV.
Yep.
Sony A7 Mark IV.
Dude, it's getting hot in here.
It's getting hot in here.
Don't take off all your clothes.
Turn the AC on really quick. Them boys are what's going on over here? You switching? What are you doing,
I love this.
Just do whatever you want, Luis.
It's your office, buddy. Don't leave us.
Just do whatever you want.
I will.
You're the breadwinner.
I am.
Is that good? That's on the cameras, right?
Should be good, you. Oh, I feel way better now. I'm feeling the cooling. Oh, gosh, it's probably like 70.
Yeah.
Probably 75 in here.
This is like normal Texas right here.
Really? Yeah.
Like this is air conditioned.
Like this is average weather in Texas.
How long does your podcast usually go for?
I don't know, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever.
Okay, good. We're at an hour.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I've been actually. Are we still going?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've actually been kind of struggling with like, maybe it's a one-off for me, you know, because like, you know, a big deal. It takes 2 years, 3 years. You know, I actually figured it to take 4 years. I'm actually about a year and a half in right now. Mm-hmm. We're almost sold out, and I'm like looking for the next one, and everybody's telling me no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I just got to hit a one-hit wonder, you know?
Well, I just saw you talking about something where you were reviewing another guy's deal.
Okay.
And he was talking about how like, yeah, or it was a partner.
It was Brian, probably.
Okay, yeah, probably Brian.
You just bought something, but you were like, yeah, in like 5 years, this is going to be great. And a lot of times if like something's going to take 5 years, I told Dakota like before, I was like, dude, we haven't even been in business 5 years.
Yeah,
like, we don't even know what 5 years from now looks like to hold on to something for that long. Even with some of these people that are doing new builds and stuff around here, I'm like, man, it takes you like a year and a half to get your money back sometimes. And like, we're not used to that because of our business model.
Yeah.
Whereas like, if you're going after a lot of acreage and you're throwing around some really big numbers, it could play out really well. Or you could end up having to wait
even longer.
Yep.
Because the market shifted or something happened. The good thing about Texas, though, is like there's a lot more.
It's popping.
Yeah, it's coming on pretty strong. And like you said, getting in between those 3 cities doesn't sound like a bad idea, especially with like politics and a lot of the ways that things are trending and people are moving to Texas.
Yeah.
Seems like Texas is going to have a lot of.
When I first got into it, I was like, I'd probably get this done in 2 years. But like you said, what if the market shifts? What if I need more time? A typical market shift in real estate is 2 years, right? So you'll have like COVID. I mean, what did COVID last? About 2 years. We had a hot market. I knew we were coming down off that hot market. We might go into a 2-year slump right now, right? So I was like, I need to negotiate at least 4 years. We got 4 years negotiating, but my whole plan has always been for 2 years. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're about a year. Actually, we're not even a year and a half. What is it, May?
Yeah.
We locked it up in April of last year, so we're a little bit over a year.
Wow.
In the first year, I mean, we sold out 75% of the property. So, and the way we structure the deal, the seller has the first right to proceeds after closing costs. So, like, I do get a little bit of money coming in for, we can put some money in closing costs and like assignments and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
We don't do assignments, but we can collect a little bit. But most of my money's coming at the end.
Wow.
Right. So that last 45 acres that we're going to sell, that lot, that's where all my money's at.
Wow.
So
until the end.
Until the end, yeah. So I was like, yeah, if it takes 4 years, like it'll take 4 years, but at least I'll have something to show for it.
Right.
I'll be making, if it takes that long, I'll be making somewhere around, when we first figured the first number, I'll be making somewhere around $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with that. I kind of live on that, so now I'm like, oh shoot, I might be actually up to like $750 now a year.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
Yep.
Right. So
when you get paid out, you're gonna buy like 10 boardroom beasts and then merge all those together. Feel like the boardroom monster.
Yeah.
Aren't you like a spokesperson for the boardroom kind of? Didn't Pineda be like, oh yeah, Evan's gonna be the leader of the next call or something like that?
Yeah. So when that was all kind of shut down, the one thing with NFTs that I don't think a lot of people realize is that when you buy an NFT, you're an owner. Like, you're the owner of that company or that project. Right? And a lot of people treat NFTs like stocks. They're like, I'm going to buy this thing, I'm going to sit back, and then I'm going to sell it when it becomes worth a lot of money. Well, that's what everybody did. The biggest problem with NFTs from Ryan's perspective, what Ryan did wrong was he marketed it to the wrong people. Right? He got a bunch of people that bought it thinking it was a stock, didn't know anything about NFTs. He didn't sell it to the Web3 community, he sold it to the Web2 community. They're like, great, I'll buy this stock, I believe in you. But we actually needed people to come in and participate. And that's what we didn't have. And that's why it just became a money pit, like for Ryan. And we, when I was in Tykes, like I was always trying to help. How do we grow this thing? How do we do this? And he's like, we need participation. So I was like, great, let's get participation. I was trying to do everything I could do. He was doing everything he could do, but we're just dumping money every month. And a lot of money too. Like, people think like, well, where did all the money go? Well, Ryan had a $2 million house that it was just sitting there for Tykes, and nobody was even using it. Like, nobody was booking it out. So where did the $2 million go? Well, we got the house, let alone websites and and payroll and everything else. Like, money was just going out the door, right? So I don't know how much Ryan ended up losing on the whole deal, but he's like, this isn't sinking the ship. When we started trying to figure out how to rebrand, we're like coming up with different ideas, couldn't get any support, people already out the door, like, this isn't working now, why is it going to work? So Ryan came to me and he's like, I think we need to do exchange of value. We got to pull the plug. And I was like, I don't know if I agree. I actually offered at one point to buy Tykes from Ryan, because I still believed in it. And then the more we had talks, he's like, you don't want to buy this, bro. He's like, I would love to sell it to you, but you don't want to buy it. And we talked about it a little bit. And eventually I was like, you're right. I don't want to buy this. Like, it'd be a bad investment for me too. So we talked about it, ended up kind of coming to, well, what's a good value exchange for the most people? Like, obviously some people are going to lose because not the value exchange for everybody isn't going to be the best. But we came to consensus that if we gave them exchange for tickets, exchange for retreat, most people wanted time with Ryan.
Right.
So that's what we gave them. And I said, hey, you got to let people vote on this. And Ryan was like, man, I don't know if we can let people vote on this. Like, what if they say they want something else? And I said, well, we have to give them something else and figure out a different way. And I was kind of the guy that made them vote on it. And so he recognized that, and he was like, all right, great. We'll vote on it. Ended up voting. The vote went the way we wanted it to go. But the board was super unhappy. They were like, we spent a lot of money.
You guys didn't rig the vote by mail-in ballots or anything?
No, it was all straight. It was all straight. You can actually go back to we actually did it on blockchain, I believe. So you could actually go back and look at if you want to examine it.
Dude. So I got. Is it only the boardroom that voted?
No, everybody got a vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
the boardroom got more votes because they technically had more tykes.
Yeah.
So they were pissed. Well, tell us about that. What were they saying?
Well, there was a few of them that were like, dude, I spent $100,000.
Yeah.
What did I get in return? I get a time with you. That's great. But I actually need some money back for this.
Sure.
And one of the things we came to was, okay, we'll keep the boardroom going, right? And we didn't know how that was going to happen. And Brian was like, do you want to run it? And I was like, not really. Like, all the stuff going on right now, I don't want to run it. And I was like, but I know who does want to run it. So I won't say the name, but I was like, this guy wants to run it. Well, he acted like he wanted to run it, but really what he wanted was more money. Or money back somehow. He thought he was going to be able to get money back, and he couldn't figure out a way. So then that's when Ryan came back to me, and he's like, dude, I need you to run this. I need to be out of this picture. So I was like, all right, I'll take one for the team and run it. So now we're keeping it going with What's Up chat, talking, doing events like WealthCon. We'll throw private parties and stuff for the boardroom, get diamonds in there, get speakers in there. Just try to provide as much value as possible.
Put me in, buddy. I was basically in.
Yeah, I can put you in.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'd love
definitely
to be in there, and then I'll definitely provide some value, and I'll come to it and stuff. But I was basically in. I had I can't remember if I had 11. I was close to having enough, and then when I started seeing how much it was, nah. But I'd love to still come in.
Well, and that's what I've told anybody. I asked Ryan, I said, how much control do I have over this? If I'm gonna take over, you're not telling me I can do this and I can't do that. How much control do I have? He's like, you have control. And I'm like, so if I want to add this one person, I can? And he's like, And I was like, if I don't have control, I don't have control. Right? And he's like, all right, you have control. So that's what I'm telling people. I'm like, if you're going to actually come in and add value, I would love to add you into the group. But what we don't want is somebody about one that doesn't add any value, that's looking just to take. I'm not going to add those people, because people that spent $25,000 for this spot don't want that either.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's always what you're going to look into getting from them. Because that's what I've noticed too. Is honestly, I think Ryan's community is better just in general for that, because we go to 10X Growth Con, it feels more like that. Hey, who's got my money? Who's got my money? You know what I mean? As opposed to hey, how can we help each other? You know what I mean? That's what I'm always looking for. And honestly, it's funny because most people see me as more of an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert, especially around a lot of people. I'm like, bro, one-on-one, I'm so solid, because I like talking to people. I like intimacy. I actually like being deep with people and knowing who they really are. Put me in a big room, dude. I'm like, can somebody come talk to me, because
the same way.
I'm like, I don't really know who to talk to or anything. But at the end of the day, if I'm talking to somebody, I'm going to see what I can do to help whatever it is, whatever they want. I want to help them with that, whether it's knowledge, whether it's deals, whether it's money. Dude, I remember a guy, actually, I just connected him. He's like, hey, dude, I need a deal to close this Friday. It was on a Monday. He's like, and I'm willing to give up 50% of the deal. I'm like, how much you need? He's like, $270,000 or something. And he's like, and I'll give up half of it. I think there's a $100,000 spread here. Or I'll do private money, 2 points this. And I'm like, I've done some transaction transactional funding for them. I'm like, I'm not willing to do it, but I know somebody is. And I actually sent him to do a friend of ours. He closed the deal. I got nothing for it, but I knew how to help the guy. And now the friend gets to make that money, the 50%. He just put it all up. Now he gets to make the 50%. I'm like, dude, good for you guys. Like, at the end of the day, I just helped him. I'm doing business on the side that doesn't involve that, but I'm still going to help both of them. And so it's like, just connecting people.
It'll all come back.
100%, dude. And people do that with us all the time. Like, oh, I know this person wants to sell their property and this and that. It's like, dude, we all just like, if we're all looking to actually help each other with the expertise that the person's in, dude, it always does.
100%. And that's, a lot of people don't know how to network.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you guys can shed some light on it. I have my own ideas, but like, what is, like, if you were going to tell somebody that's never networked before that thinks like, oh man, I don't see the value in networking. What would you tell? How do you get to talk to the right people?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I mean, I'm not as good at it as Dakota is. I think just over time, like, connecting with people, telling them what you like about them, telling them what you appreciate. Like, some of the guys who used to be at our Real Estate Investors Association 4.5 years ago, I can still call them up, text them, send them a voice memo, and I still look at them as mentors where I'm like, oh yeah, I read your book. That really changed my life. It really changed my perspective. I really enjoyed it, and just being genuinely interested in those people. I forget sometimes that I can, like, call them up and ask them for things if I genuinely needed things. But I don't think of it like that. I think that when it comes to our local environment, at least Dakota and I kind of started, and then after we had accumulated some deals and done some stuff, then we reached out to people because we felt like, hey, now that I've done a few deals, I've shown you that, like, I actually am willing to put in the work. I just need a little bit more information or a little bit of help.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's as opposed to somebody who goes like, I need a mentor. Will you be my mentor and show me how to do everything? Like, that's pretty obnoxious.
Yeah, it's funny because I think about that. I'm like, man, I feel like there's value to that though too, because like Grant Cardone does have his people. Hey, if you're going into a room and you're not talking about a specific goal doing this thing, what are you actually doing there? And I'm like, man, I see that side, but then I go about it from the absolute opposite way of like, okay, just asking like questions like about the person. What do you do? Like, I actually like hearing more about what people do than me telling them, because like that's what I don't like about the events is like it almost feels sometimes like a pissing competition, and I'm like, I don't like to do that, and it feels really weird for me. Like, oh, you're doing this, well, how much you doing? And then everybody's like, you guys are doing so good. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Like, I actually like it. Kind of feels weird. Like, I don't mind talking about factual stuff and numbers, and then like if we're trying to figure out how to, you know, implement it in the business, but I don't like to just be like, yeah, well, how much you doing? Oh, we're doing 1 million. All right, well, yeah, well, we did 3 million this year, and like, you know, it just feels weird sometimes. Instead of like asking the person what they're doing, what are they working on, what are they trying to get to the next step, and then like having maybe like something specific that we're struggling with, because like that was we went out there just the last time, and I said, hey, we're with the project manager. I'm like, hey guys, we need to figure out what KPIs everybody else is using to track theirs. Like, that's not taking anything from anybody, but it's something that's going to massively benefit our business. So that is our objective, is to find out what KPIs are people using to track their project managers, so we can figure out how we can hold our people more accountable. So sometimes it's just like information that's going to help you. So yeah, I would say like setting a target does make sense, but also sometimes it does like, I need a private money lender, but you do have to have some sort of target about what you're going to do if you're going to network in some ways. But in the beginning, like Tony and I we just like to talk to people and connect with people. Really, that's really how we got started.
Except for like the third day, Dakota's still like 100%. I'm like, bro, I'm ready to go home. Like after like 2 days of talking to people, I'm just like, okay, I don't need the third day. We can just go home.
I don't know, dude. I've been changing a lot too, where I feel like I've been like wanting to go back to my room more, which is really odd. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. It could be like I was getting a little depressed, and so maybe that was what was going in. So like now I feel like I'm getting out of it, but man, maybe that was what it was. But I just noticed myself like wanting to withdraw a little bit more, go back to my room and just be alone. I'm like, that is not like me. So it is interesting how it changes over time.
All right, Evan, give us 10 quick tips.
On networking?
I watched the Instagram video. I need to either get a silly hat or a gimmick so that people see me and they're like, that's Tony Moore.
Well, I think if you want to engage with people that are at a higher level than you got to have a little bit of something different about you. It doesn't have to be the look. It has to be the question. I mean, it has to be something different, right? I think a lot of people go up to like Ryan, they're like, I like your hair. And Ryan's like, cool, what else? You know, because he's heard it 10,000 times, right? So you got to do something a little bit different. What I like doing when I'm trying to connect with somebody that's especially higher up to me, or like at a different level, I should say, not higher, but a different level than me, at a higher level, I tried to approach them in a way that they've never heard before. Like, so the first time I met Ryan, you know, we were actually met in person. We were talking. He knew kind of a little bit about me. He knew my name was Big Price in the Discord. That's kind of where my Big Price thing comes from, because Ryan just kept calling me Big Price. But the first time I met him, I was at his office at the MVP day, and there was 2 lines. It was like right after he got done. There was a line to get lunch, and there was a line to meet Ryan. Well, I intentionally put myself in the line to get to Ryan, knowing that it wasn't the lunch line, but I acted like I was in the lunch line. So we're moving forward, and I'm like kind of watching, like, and Ryan sees me like looking at the line, and I'm like, okay, well, cool, I'll move forward. And he gets to me, and he's like, what's up, Big Price? And I was like, is this not the lunch line? And he's like, no, dude, this is the line, talk to me. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I said, do I lose my spot now? And he's like, what? And I was like, bro, that's cool, but I'm hungry. And like, I want to meet you, but I'm also hungry. And he was like, so dumbfounded. He's like, what are you talking? Dude, let's talk, you know? But it was just like a different way to approach him. Like, everybody's like, wants to take a picture with him. Everybody in that whole place has just spent a lot of money to be in that room with Ryan, right? So everybody's asking like, oh, I need this question, I need this question, I need that question. He's expecting that. So to throw him off, I don't even care about you. I'm just here to get lunch, right? And just threw him off to the point where now he's remembering me. He's like, who is that guy? Why is he so different? You know? And I continuously do that with people that, you know, because they're just people at the end of the day, right? And if you treat them like just people, I mean, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was told him I was kidding and stuff, right? So he got that point. But like, if you treat them like people, then they'll respect you a little bit more versus treating them like a celebrity. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I do is I just try to give. Like you touched on it. You said like we literally did deals. Now I feel like I can ask, right? So I just try to wait to ask as long as possible.
Yeah, until you actually need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think when people overvalue what their input is, like, actually, I won't say who, but I made an introduction that wanted to talk to Ryan. He knew I was friends with Ryan. He's like, hey, can you help me introduce me to him? And I'm like, yeah, bro. Like, but at the same time, I'm thinking like, that's an ask, right? So I finally reluctantly, I told him no a couple times, but then I finally was reluctant. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of gatekeeping at this point. And I was like, I thought that was kind of hurting our relationship, because he's like, you have what I want. You're asking me for things and you're not helping me. So I was like, whatever, I'll make the introduction. And he went to Ryan and he's like, yeah, man, I want to be on your podcast. This is what I do. And Ryan's like, Ryan texted me. He's like, who is this guy? And I was like, I don't know, dude. He's doing like a lot of money in wholesaling every year. And he's like, yeah, but I have 15 of those people. Why should I put him on my podcast versus somebody else? And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I was just making the introduction. He's like, yeah, but just because somebody's successful doesn't mean they know how to network. Like, what I always say is, like, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's you guys, Ryan Pineda, or just that random person that's coming up to you at the event, like, expect they have more to give than you can possibly give them. And then just try to pour value into them. And that's what I think a lot of people just try to ask too soon. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I never got that starstruck with Ryan. I never was like, oh, he's a celebrity, but we saw him at a different time.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Ryan will probably remember, like, if he ever talks about me, he'll be like, yeah, Tony came up to me and he asked me, he's like, dude, he's like, I was like, okay, Ryan, how are you not divorced?
He said, "How are you still married?"
Like, how are you still married?
That's a good question.
With everything that you do and everything. And he was like, actually, and he like brought a bunch of people together, and then he just was like, I think that's a good question, and I think a lot of people want to know. But that is
He
pretty
didn't say it was a good question. He said that is the craziest question, and like Tony always just asks the funniest stuff. And
Dude,
then,
I've asked Ryan some like deep stuff too, and he's just been like, yeah, I'll answer that. I don't have anything to hide, but like he's just like, yeah, that's cool that you're genuinely interested in some deep stuff too.
Yeah.
he loves hearing Tony's stories.
Yeah,
Dude, everybody loves hearing your
Tell us a story.
He's
Tony
really
just
shorting him.
on the spot. Just like he's like, "Hey, Tony, tell us a story," and then like Tony just literally goes,
I
"Oh
don't
well."
know. I don't know if I've got one, and then I'll think about it for a second. We're like, oh, just the other day we were at, I just got to shorten him. Ryan Pineda has
He's got
like
a short attention span.
Yeah, he is like in it, and then he's out of it, and then I got to do something to bring him back. Like, how do I keep
Gotta be
Ryan's
funny.
attention?
Yeah.
I got to get to the punchline.
That's 100%. Ryan's got a very short attention span. You see him looking over all the time, and he does a little like nose. All right, well,
It's very much him. Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny. I love watching Ryan at events because he's so introverted. Like we were at this event for Tykes, and it was like a small room of people. The dinner was happening. Actually, Michael Frenchies, like the Italian mobster, now out of it. It was a collab with them, and Michael's going around and he's like, "Nice to meet you. My name's Michael." Like very professional. Like dude. Like the amount of like hospitality Michael has is crazy. Like Ryan, like not that Ryan doesn't have hospitality, but just on a different level.
Camera's out.
Did we lose both? Yeah. So I was just like, so Ryan's sitting over there looking at his phone, like looking at watches, and I'm literally sitting right next to him, and he's like, and I look over like to my left, and all I see him is just scrolling through watches, and I was like, this guy is so stressed, like being in this room is stressful for him. Like, I just want to get out of this space, like do something I'm interested in. He's an introvert, right? So I turn over to Ryan and I'm like, hey man, I'm not trying to bug you right now. I know you're in your space. And he's like, what's up, Evan? And I knew like he was annoyed because he called me Evan, not Big Price. you know? And I was like, hey, I want to give you an invitation to come down to my ranch in Texas. And we'll go shooting. I won't tell anybody you're in town. I just want you to have a time where you can be away from everything. Nobody's talking to you. Nobody's trying to get at you. Like, you can just chill. He's like, I'll be down in June. And I was like, just to come down? He's like, no, I'm already going to be in town. I want to just And I was like, cool, yeah, come out. So I literally pick up Brian and Javi at the airport. And we're driving out to the ranch, and I'm just being quiet. Like, the whole goal of bringing him down is just to let him relax. So I'm not trying to ask questions. I'm not trying to do anything. He's asking me some questions. I'm answering him. Like, I'm not being quiet, awkwardly quiet.
Yeah, he's just like asking questions.
Yeah, but he's like on his phone doing his thing. You know, him and Javi are talking. I'm just listening. We got to the ranch. We do some shooting. He loves it. Like, we're clay shooting. So
yeah,
shotguns and clays. And
that's the best.
He's missing the first, 15, and then he starts hitting. He's like, yeah, I'm on. I would just start doing some content. Like, it was just a lot of fun. And then we get done with that, and we go kind of take him back to town. And I was like, do you want to check out my Airbnb I have? And he's like, yeah, we can go. And, like, that's the only thing I said to him, like, on a 45-minute drive. And he looks at me. He's like, are you really not going to ask me anything? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I've never been invited anywhere where the guy's just not drilling me with questions. And I was like, well, I told you in Vegas like 3 months ago that I just want you to hang out and relax. Like, I'm not trying to get anything. I told nobody he's coming to town. I actually told Brian. I knew Brian would be respectful. And he's like, I want to come. And I'm like, that's not what this is for. And he's like, okay, I respect that. But I didn't tell anybody else he was in town other than people knew he was around because he was doing an event.
Yep.
And I think he really appreciated that, just to be like, this guy's actually trying to give value versus trying to take. And that's what it is. Like, always wait for the ask. Always wait for the ask. Overheating?
No,
It could be the power supply. It could be the HDMI.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so we got, mine is DakotaBailey.in. That stands for Indiana because Brian DeVilla said, dude, you got to be the guy of Indiana. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then we got Tony and Dakota on Instagram, LTD Property Group on Facebook and Instagram.
Cool.
Tony David Moore, if you want to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, go follow him.
Mm-hmm.
Any books you're promoting right now? And are you writing any books? I feel like you're going to write a book.
We're both writing books.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah,
Dakota's
I think
a lot closer to getting his done.
I'm going to get my motherfucking thing done by the end of this year. So if you want to help me with that, that'd be awesome. It is called From Foster Care to Millionaires. So
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very excited to release that book. Honestly, that is part of my depression. Writing that book has been... I found out that my counselor actually said that's a very way to get over your emotional baggage because you're writing it out. And then I noticed that I was writing, I'm like, okay, I'm writing this as if I'm a hero. And I had to go back and write it about what actually happened and what I felt in the moment. And I realized that my memory was there, but I didn't actually remember it. I suppressed it. And so then going back and feeling it and remembering it has been an interesting thing. And honestly, I just said a lot of stuff in that book. So I thought I was going to make a book of this tactful hero's journey, and then I'm going to tell you exactly how to become wealthy. And then I start writing the book and I'm like, it was more of an emotional telling you my story about what happened, how I got to where I'm at, the mindset shift and what happened, and the positive and the negatives of mindset. Because when you get it a strong mindset, sometimes that comes as a detriment to a lot of other areas. And so I kind of just talk about the positives and the negatives about trauma, because it did create a freaking really strong person, but it came at some baggage with it. So
Do you know when you're going to release that?
I don't have a for sure date, but right now I'm in first phase of editing. I just got it back, so I'm working through all the different edits they have. I already went through AI editing, and then I got 2 more things of editing. So I'm going to guess, what is it? I'm going to guess by the end of the year. That's what I'm guessing, by the end of this year.
Maybe by the time we post this, whether I'm posting it, you guys are posting it, whatever we're going to do, maybe we'll have a date at that time.
Let's say December 2024. If it's not out by then, I'm going to be pissed.
So just look directly at the camera, go order my book at Amazon called...
Yes, perfect.
Pre-order it.
Yeah, hey, pre-order the book From Foster Care to Millionaire
on Amazon
right now. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. And Tony, we can look for in the next 4 years. So be looking for that.
Tony, we're gonna re-release.
He doesn't even know the title yet.
I thought no, I did have some titles in mind, and then I looked them up, and I was like, oh, people have already used those titles.
Yep.
And so a lot of it was just skip the line, or use these techniques, or steal from me, or something like that, where it's just hey, borrow my knowledge to get further ahead and get to where you want to go faster.
Mine's going to be called How to Creative Finance NFTs.
How to become a millionaire with NFTs. That'd be a how-to. Chicken Noop for the NFT soul.
Well, this is great, guys. Appreciate you making time for me and
For sure, dude.
Doing
It's
this.
been fun.
Thanks for coming out all the way to Indiana.
Yeah.
He's right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana right now. He was just near Chicago
Yep.
with Gary Harper.
Going to Boise
Those
tomorrow.
Sharper Business
Jeez.
Solutions.
Yeah.
You're driving?
No, flying.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Boise, Idaho.
Yep.
Are you actually going to stay the night, or are you going to fly out there and just do something
I'll
right
stay
away?
the night tonight and then fly out there tomorrow.
When's your flight?
It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, if you want to come back to the office, see what we do on the day-to-day. just
Hell yeah, I
stop
would
by,
love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then you can see the other office.
Yeah.
The other office is beautiful, and if you play ping pong.
Yeah, cool.
I like
All
it.
right.
Awesome.
All right, we got
Peace.